Well, the school doesn't have any
Here's
fields.
the call. They have the football field, but no baseball.
You know. They have like the little field in front. And then they built a lacrosse field that isn't the right
It
size.
doesn't make sense for us to sit here while not to.
Hello. Oh, not now, we have to go.
For Laura Lee.
We're really running behind.
School should figure it out.
Okay.
They're getting this good for
Joe, give me 5 seconds, okay? Welcome, everybody, to the regular meeting for the Board of Trustees for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Is there a motion to open tonight's meeting? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Meeting is hereby open. Where's Laura Lee?
You want to have the pledge?
Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do need a motion to go into executive session. Is that correct, Laura Lee?
You do for purposes of, are you just seeking legal advice? You're going to adjourn for
Yeah. It's through advice of counsel.
Okay, then you're going to
So,
adjourn, yeah.
Okay, we're going to adjourn for an advice of counsel meeting. We should be back in a few minutes.
article in here about the Treasurer's off our big grant. It's the exact same stuff that we're looking at doing.
Is it the fifth
No. So I made a copy.
So how is this with the three,
It was really cool.
I mean, is that good? Is it,
I told you should have come out.
Where?
We were up north, it was north of Screw Lake, but in totality.
Is it? Yeah, no.
It was
And we're back.
amazing. I don't mind saying it. It's amazing.
so step away from a flip phone. Oh, I'm lucky I have one.
So I can make this first?
Okay. We're waiting for trustee Rosen Asher.
We are
those of
waiting
you
for
who are
trustee
wondering.
Rose and Ash. Yes, for
those
those
of you
who
who
are
are
wondering, we're
wondering.
waiting for trustee Rose and Ash.
We're trying this,
We're playing,
trying this
playing
statute game.
a new meeting game. It's the quiet game. You all know it as parents.
We're in a timeout. I put them in a timeout when we were in the other room.
Are we recording? We are, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. We apologize for the delay. So we're going to just move forward. The first item is an appointment. I'm going to announce the appointment of Nadia Rahman as committee chair for the Ad hoc Human Rights and Diversity Committee. Cynthia Kakata is resigning as the chair, and the committee has recommended that Nadia be appointed. I want to thank Cynthia for all the time, effort, and energies that she's put into being on the committee. She was one of the first appointees when we created this very important committee, so I want to thank her again. And I also want to thank Nadia, who I met and spoke to when she was initially put on the committee just a few months ago. So I think she'll bring a great energy and a different perspective to the committee, so we would like to thank her for stepping up and being the committee chair. Next item is a public hearing, and I need a motion to open this public hearing. Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rose and Asher, all in favor. Public hearing is now open. This is to consider a site plan approval for 83 Main Street, which is to renovate an existing barn building to include commercial space on the first floor and one family dwelling on the second floor. Mr. Tilley, welcome.
Good evening, and I'm happy to be here again on 83 Main Street. We've been to the planning board, as you know, and got a referral. I did send out a memo this afternoon. I don't know if everybody has it. I have copies of it here that are further in response to Valerie's memo, so I can.
If you have copies, then you can bring it up, sure. It's my understanding that this memo still does not address all the issues, and Valerie, you can speak to that, I think?
Yeah, exactly.
Or do you have her?
Thank you.
Well, is this the memo has Valerie reviewed this memo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
I got an email copy.
We can share.
I have it.
We get an email? When did it come out?
And did the clerk get a copy? Because she's going to need to. Yeah, she'll need to put it in the record. Somebody could forward it electronically, that would be helpful.
Okay, so Steve, we don't need a full presentation, because I think we've had the presentation, and
Okay,
I think
yeah.
we were generally okay with it. We passed it along to the planning board. The planning board passed, approved what they wanted to do, but I understand from our engineer, from Valerie, that there were some key issues that haven't been addressed. So unless you're saying you've addressed those,
Well, no, at this point, I spoke to Valerie. She wants to see the parking calculation that we made on the drawing itself so that the resolution can apply to the drawing and refer only to that. And also the lighting, I need to specify a specific lighting device, which I addressed in the response, but it's not on the drawing at this point, so that's a detail. But the other issue which in looking back at the code, actually I realized that theoretically this project doesn't require site plan approval because it doesn't meet any of the tests. When I looked at it in detail, it's a change of use of less than 1,000 square feet. So, which means that it's exempt from site plan approval, but here we are anyway, we've been to the planning board, and so it's somewhat moot. But the issue of the zoning variance, my reading of 300-52 is that because this is such a de minimis, we have three dormers that are admitting light and air to a second floor. There's no change in the footprint. There's de minimis change in any square footage. My reading is that actually you have the ability to grant a waiver from the zoning, from the strict application of the zoning code, with the understanding that the proposed action is consistent with the promoting the health, safety, et cetera, the purpose of the zoning code. And so, you know, there's a rigmarole to going through the zoning board process, but it seems to me that in this case, it's a situation where a waiver is appropriate and there's no, you know, there are no potential consequences to granting it.
okay.
Except your zoning analysis on the site plan that's before this board says a variance is required. So if you know, if you're going to agree to do a waiver, then that needs to be a request. Then it needs to, you know, it's reflected. The site plan has not been updated since you saw it and you referred it. So now it's back. The site plan is still the same as it was. And in the zoning analysis, and you'll see in my memo, I pointed out, it says there's a variance requirement. So if what they're seeking is some sort of waiver from that, and then it should not be reflected. And again, the zoning table should also have that parking analysis on here. And if they can't meet it, are they requesting a pileup? There's really no clarification. So it was impossible for me to even, I started to draft a resolution, then I realized there was still so much missing from the update that you had asked, you had asked for, and there's no input from the fire department on the emergency, and also that shared use next door, there's no proof that there's some sort of agreement with the neighbor for the shared use, the shared access, so that's all pointed out in the memo that I gave you.
Actually, the access issue was addressed. The access is on the same property, so that there's no need for reference to another property. Our position on the parking, which we'll put on the chart, is that a pileup is only required for one parking space, which would be the second floor studio, which is a change of use to residential use. The ground floor has been in continuous use as you know, kind of light industrial workshop uses. So there's no need for additional parking for the ground floor. There is the need for either a pileup or I'm here with Kevin Hartman, my client, who owns the adjoining properties and the property itself, and would be prepared to place, for permit approval, institute the pileup and then work on a potential easement from one of his properties to another for the parking space that would then release the pileup. But the access that was in question is on the same property. There was just a question about, it seems the question, the remark was it seems narrow. Well, it's a perfectly, it's a pedestrian access back to the barn, which is fine. It's,
Okay, but it just seems that there are other issues that can't be resolved today, so.
no, I understand that.
So what I'm going to do is adjourn this public hearing to 2 weeks. You think you'll have the information in 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I just saw the memo today.
Right.
About what what the information they wanted to have on the drawing itself, rather than an independent. I mean, I had submitted the response to the planning board, and it didn't make its way to this public hearing, so I'd assumed it would, but it didn't.
Okay.
So that's why I redid this. But the issue of the waiver remains, and I would maintain that that's within your purview to grant that for this situation where there's basically just a creation of light and air and no additional square footage being, there's no change in the footprint of the building and there's no additional square footage that's, requiring that variance. If it's it's the most minor kind of interpretive question about how you determine that a variance is necessary, so.
Okay, you could make that approach to, send us a letter saying that, and I'm sure Valerie and the attorney will parse it out and give us what we should, then we can
All right.
review it when we get.
Yeah, that's fine.
2 weeks.
And how would that, and
Just
again,
quickly, before you, I want to just ask a question about this. Is there a mechanism for the waiver in this way? So I'm not, please, if you would explain that, just because if not, then the applicant would have to go to the zoning board.
There's a
If
section.
there is, then,
There's a section in the zoning code that allows for any approving board to waive any section of the zoning.
and this is a fairly minor thing that we're talking about here. So does this, where has this been applied previously, and is this within that spectrum of reasonable waivers to grant?
Recently, in front of this, I mean, I would have to take a look, but I know for the fact that since I've been working with this board, you have applied it on a couple of cases in terms of where it's really minor. And in this case, too, it's already a pre-existing condition. It's just the fact that, they're.
Okay, so there is a mechanism, and
Yes.
this fits within how that gets used.
That's correct.
But this board has been very careful about the frequency of waivers and the use of waivers, particularly when there are other avenues that could be pursued
That's
that
correct.
fit within the code. The pattern of constantly giving waivers is not something that historically this board has wanted to be involved in.
That's correct, and that's something that, just in general, that's why with Dan and I, when Dan will identify if a particular variance is necessary or potentially necessary, and then we, give you the option of having that waiver. If not, it becomes, you refer it over to the ZBA for a variance. But in this particular situation, the building is existing, so it is something that, the board could consider waiving.
The one concern that I have here is, we get these packets on Thursday or Friday, and we do as much diligence as we can to read them. And when there's this is a late breaking thing that that is just coming up tonight. So I don't know what questions I have, right? It may be minor, it may be something that we should think of as trivial, but it's last minute, and maybe I'm being too processy here, but surprises aren't good.
So this was identified in the zoning, in the memo that I provided back in February. There have been no updates on these particular plans. So typically an applicant will provide updates to the plans, and then we'll reissue a memo saying that these are still the outstanding conditions. It is typical for projects such as this not to be approved the very first meeting or even the second meeting after the recommendation comes back from the planning board. So this is part of the process. So Mr. Tilley will go back and we'll revise the plans. We'll identify some of the issues that are outstanding, and then we'll also provide a response to the board in specifically asking for the waiver, and then also responding to some of the other issues that were raised in terms of the access. And part of the memo is also to just raise issues that you might want to consider or might want to ask questions about, like such as the access, which is only going to be pedestrian access to the rear, unless for some reason the board wants to see some sort of easement agreement through one of the neighboring properties, which are actually owned by the same applicant. So these are things that the board can start discussing and thinking about, but you don't have to make any decisions tonight.
Yeah, so how would the vehicles get to park in the parking spaces once they're identified as needing parking? So is all the access coming from the rear of the property? What are the rights of that? Is that safe? For emergency services, we had asked to get an opinion from the fire department to make sure it's public safety has been taken into account. So, all of that sort of has been swirling around since the February. And this is the first in a while of when something comes back from the planning board and it's not ready to go. So this will take some time. He'll need to meet the submission deadlines to be, and we'll make sure that that gets to you when it's submitted, so you have access to it. It's unusual to hand up a memo that explains, but, we'll wait to see what revised submissions come forward.
And the
and then-
memo came directly from the applicant to you. Typically, it goes to the planning board, to the building department, and then gets distributed as part of your packets. So that process did not take place, which
Okay,
is why.
thank you very much. So we're going to adjourn this 2 weeks. So is there a motion?
Yeah, maybe you.
Let me just say one thing. I did submit a response to the memo to the planning board and assumed that it was then going to be returned to you. So it wasn't that I wasn't changing things, I was responding, and then there was no response to that memo, so
You
it's fine.
drafted a responsive memo to the planning board?
Yeah, it went through the building department, it went to the planning board, it was there at their meeting, and
I
it
didn't-
didn't make its way to this meeting. It's
Yeah, I didn't
probably
see it in
my
the
fault.
shared drive, so that's why I'm just asking.
It's
I
probably-
wasn't aware that you.
I should have made sure that that memo got through. As you can, the memo I just handed out tonight was just a rewrite of the memo that went to the planning board that was my response, and then I didn't get the message that Valerie wanted to see the information on the drawing itself and the, and the zoning analysis and the other calculation of the PILOP. So that will all happen in the next couple of days, and
Okay.
you'll have several weeks to look at it and review it.
Okay.
And
So this-
debate the issue.
This
that
memo
I
is a
raised.
copy of what that memo
Okay.
was.
We're just going to,
It's a previous version of this one.
got it. We're just going to adjourn it since we can't go any further.
Yeah, no, I
Just
got it.
adjourn it,
You might
please.
want to make sure if people came tonight to make comments on it, you want to make sure you've at least taken the time.
Is anybody here to comment on? Go ahead, Patty.
You don't have to make them come back.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Steve and I have a long history with Barnes. I think this is a wonderful project. I think this is the kind of thing that should be encouraged dramatically in the village, and you need to do what you need to do to make things like this happen. We have an unfortunate number of buildings in our downtown that are in not great condition, and we want people to feel that there's an option for them to come forward and get it turned into something that's useful for our community. This is a heroic effort that Mr. Hartnett is making. Steve is the right person. He knows how to make it work, and this is really what should be encouraged. And I understand you're not trying to discourage them, but sometimes it just seems like it gets too complicated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn this public hearing until Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024 at 7:30? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. Meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is courtesy of the floor. Who would like to speak? Patty raises, will Patty raise his hand?
I go back. I go where
Another hour of time. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is John Moss. I live at 111 South Lawn Avenue. I'll be quick. I'm here representing a small subset of the parents of the varsity baseball team. We understand they cannot play at Gould Park for very good reason, for safety reasons. Our request is rather simple. If the village leadership could leverage every opportunity that they could to see if they could find another place for them to play, to practice. It's a great team, a really, really good team. They've been working remarkably hard up to this point. The season starts, and then they lose their opportunity to practice on a day-to-day basis. So I know you're doing everything you can to make things safe over at Gould Park. We'd only ask if there's any levers that can be pulled with neighboring villages, Mercy, Masters. That would be really, really great.
I will do that. I will contact them. I'm also, maybe Macy Park is a county park, maybe something of that nature.
Anything and everything.
Okay.
In fact, there might be a couple, like, a few of them, because I'm sure, Mercy has a great facility, but I'm sure Mercy's using it quite a bit. So,
Right.
anyway, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Anybody else?
Nice to be back again. Good evening, Luke Mullen, resident of Dobbs Ferry. I would like to raise an idea of what can be good for the village. This has also been brought up by another resident in the village that I know, who asked me about the senior community center and requested that maybe it would be a good idea to welcome non-residents who don't live here for senior programs. Also, it would be a good idea for the village and for the community in bringing financial benefits and to build more people for group numbers, which would be a good idea and thought to consider. That was it.
Okay, thank you very much. I do think the seniors, people from Ardsley go to
And
the seniors,
Yonkers.
and Yonkers go. So,
Thanks.
good idea,
Trustees.
thank you.
I have a couple of handouts if I can give them to you
Sure.
guys. Is that okay?
Please, identify yourself, please. Joe, you want to tell us who you are?
Yes. My name is Joe Rooney. I'm a resident of Dobbs Ferry for the past 60 years. I'm also an EMT for the past 12 years, been president of the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Ambulance Corps for the past 3 years. I'm here because we've been trying to work with the village, getting funding for new ambulances. We have a 1997 and a 2007 ambulance. Just since January, we've put in $36,000 in repairs. A new engine, the back of the ambulances needed to be reconstructed from a company down in Ronkonkoma, Long Island. New ambulances run from anywhere from $280,000 to $320,000. Ordering time is 18 to 22 months. So even if we were to order an ambulance tomorrow, we're not going to possibly have the ambulances that are going to last for the next 2 years with the amount of damage and the amount of miles that these ambulances have had. We were on the capital budget line for $250,000 for an ambulance, and we had met with Robert, and somehow, some way, it was taken off of the budget. Not sure why. We've also met with Robert and Jeff at our building and discussed the importance of needing a facility that could very easily be condemned soon. We went downstairs, there was rat feces, there was problems with the foundation, there was mold in the vents. These are all things that need to be addressed, not 2 weeks from now, not 3 weeks from now, but soon. We met with them 3 weeks ago and still have not had any response from anybody of what's happening with this. I will tell you, we have per diems that stay in the building 24 hours a day to cover all of our shifts. And God forbid if something happens to that building where it comes down like the American Legion building did, people are going to die. And this has been going on, not necessarily with this board, but for the past 4 or 5 years, we've been trying desperately to get an engineer's report. We were told an engineer's report was done, never received a copy. We've went through Charlene, who is the village administrator, then we went through Rich, then we went through Melissa, then we went through Rich again, and we've met with Robert, and Robert has taken the time to sit with us and really listen to us, and I'm hoping that this is a good thing for moving forward. But something needs to be done, and we're kind of at wit's end. So we're just hoping that you guys will understand and help us some way, somehow. My captain, Swapnil, has been in touch with Mike, who's been a valuable asset to us as our liaison. And I'm just continuing to be here to let you know of importance, that we need help here. So.
Joe, we thank everything that you've done and everybody. Without you, you provide a valuable asset to the village, there's no doubt about it, and we will consider this. But I also want to ask, have you done anything as far as grants for ambulances? And I know there may have been ARPA money, meaning or FEMA, or other kinds of grants.
We have asked, we just recently asked Robert about, I understand you guys have a grant writer for the village. But to no avail have we heard anything from anybody to lead us in that direction. So obviously, we are open to any and all suggestions of what you may have for us, to do something like that.
Okay.
All right. Also, I just want to mention that in December and in January, we had 2 life saves where we actually performed CPR with the help of Greenberg paramedics and the Dobbs Ferry Police Department. And we did revive 2 patients on separate occasions, obviously. One of them came to our ambulance corps about 3 weeks ago with a nice donation, and their whole family just to meet us and to thank us for the work that we've done. So I think that should be, our EMTs should be recognized by the board for that.
Happy to do it. If you want to give us the information, and we can come down and give them a nice certificate thanking them for their service and their effort, we're happy to do it.
I will take care of that tomorrow.
Okay.
And if anybody would like to read what I just handed out, if you have any questions, my number's on there, my captain's number is on there, so feel free to give me a call. I'll be more than happy to speak with anybody.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you
again
for
for
what you
all
do.
your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Looks like it's you. Oh, I thought you raised your hand before.
I did, because all I have to say for Joe is thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I don't see it. There was an item on our workshop agenda which we didn't get to, and that's the Memorial Park Shed funding option, so I'm going to add it. I need a motion to add, do I need a motion since it was on our workshop agenda?
No, it's just a discussion, so it's not an action item,
So
but
let's talk about it now. So we have a really beautiful Memorial Park shed at Memorial Park. So I think,
Laura Lee can explain what the item is.
all right, Laura Lee, why don't you tell us what the issue is?
I don't know what the issue is.
The discussion, I don't know who put it on.
The issue is that there has been no funding yet approved by the board for that project. So we need to figure out the funding, whether it's amendment.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
Yeah,
thought it was a donation.
I thought it was something else. I thought you were talking about
The donation didn't cover the whole.
No, it
project.
doesn't, okay.
Yeah.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So we need to figure out the funding, whether it's a transfer or a budget transfer or amendment. There is
From
some
last year's budget though, right?
from the current,
That's what I mean,
yeah, current budget.
What's the amount?
It's around 100,000. Another option is there's still some money in the capital fund from Waterfront Park that I believe can be used for other Parks and Rec projects. I would just want to just talk to bond counsel and just verify that we could do that, but I believe we could do that.
The 100,000 is our share, or that's the total?
That is the total cost from my recollection.
And how much, there was a donation? How much was the donation?
I haven't seen the donation.
It's a small amount, it's like 11,000.
We passed a resolution to accept that donation, and you also authorized a license agreement for the use during the season for concession and also storage, exclusive use for storage. That was on for a resolution. I don't know the date.
That's okay, we don't need the
We
date.
passed that, but it was the total in the original estimate when they wanted to donate just a concession stand. So we expanded the scope of the project, and then that required a slab because they're going to be using equipment from DPW and putting it in and out of the opposite side of the concession area. So it expanded the scope of the project. So you took the donation in the amount that was originally offered to defray.
You have a recommendation about how we pay for it?
I would like to talk to the bond counsel just to make sure that we can use the money that's left in the project, in the waterfront project. That project initially had a shed for waterfront park that was not completed. So I'm curious if we can use the money for that.
And then we could draft a resolution, a formal resolution, but this is just so you're aware that, we need to find the source of funds for that remaining amount, and we can have the numbers for you formally in a resolution and a source.
Okay, if you think that's the better way to go, then, okay.
Yeah.
You can report back to us, and then we'll take appropriate action.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. Action item number 1 is to consider a resolution establishing on-street metered parking zone for Lower Main Street and an associated fee on a pilot basis. So, and I'm going to probably defer to Trustee Galen as we go forward on this, but we have gotten, we tried something new with the new parking system, and part of the reason for the change was because the restaurants and some of the other establishments felt that there wasn't enough turnover downtown, that people would park there and people wouldn't shop or use the restaurants because they couldn't find the parking spot, and people didn't want to walk to Cedar Street parking a lot. But inadvertently, that has caused two types of problems that we hope to address today. One of them is people on Lower Main Street who have apartments and live there. They come home from work around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and because they were only allowed to park there for 2 hours, it affected their ability to find parking spots when they came home from work, and they had to pay for parking, and then they had to run out and then maybe put more money in, or they couldn't pay again because they were in a certain zone, and the zone you can't pay for twice, so that caused a problem. And the other problem was also downtown when people maybe wanted to go out to eat or spend more than 2 hours at a restaurant or shopping, they couldn't simply extend their parking time because, again, you was limited as to how much time the 2 hours in that zone. So today's fix or a pilot program is to try to alleviate that, see how it goes. And Trustee Galen, am I saying this properly?
Yeah, I think it was fine. I mean, to cut to the chase, we are voting on adding one additional new zone. When we initially looked at the parking zones that existed before we implemented Park Mobile with the previous system, I think we had 17 zones or something like that. And part of this, our initiative was to make it more logical and rational. But we do have an extraordinarily long downtown, if you include all of Cedar and Main, and not all of those areas in the downtown are equally accessible to the longer-term lots that we were trying to encourage people to park at. So this is an attempt to rectify an inadvertent hardship that we created for the folks who live in Lower Main, as the mayor said. So the idea is that south of the library, there will be one additional new zone that will end enforcement at 6 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. And that is because there are no businesses that we're aware of that are open past 8 p.m. in that zone. We wanted to make sure that for the library and for the restaurants north of that on Main, that there is still adequate turnover through 8 p.m. So hopefully this will be a great help to the residents who live down there. So that starting at 6 p.m., they don't have to worry about enforcement. And also we want to add an option to add a third hour in the Cedar and Main zone and this additional new Lower Main zone at $2 an hour. So other hours are $1 an hour. The first 2 hours are $1 an hour each. The third hour would be $2 an hour. The idea with that is continue to incentivize people to park in the lots when they can, but to make it an option that they're not going to get a ticket if, for example, they stop at hair salon that's really far from one of the parking lots and they have a treatment that's more than 2 hours, they won't have to worry about moving their car. That's some feedback we got a number of times. So, we're trying to be responsive. Again, as the mayor said, this is a pilot initiative. We're going to test it out, and we definitely encourage folks to continue to provide us the feedback. We're really trying to thread a very tiny needle with a lot of different interests at play, but, fundamentally to support the commerce and the residents of the downtown. So we're going to give it a try.
And also, if you were going to patronize more than one business and that period of time would enter into it, like if you had your nails done and then you wanted to run to the restaurant, it may be, you need that third hour. So
Since we just have one zone for most of.
I just noticed trustee Patina was like, do hair appointments really take more than 2
I
hours?
think it was Trustee Patino who was thinking about
No,
that.
he
Me and Larry.
He looked at us and he was like, it takes more than, I'm like, you think it's easy looking this great?
That's why I asked you two,
But
yeah.
yeah, exactly. It means that
thought it was-
you can patronize a business on Main Street and then move your
That's
car
right.
within the same zone,
That's
stay on
right.
Cedar, patronize another business on
Completely
Cedar.
agree. It makes both of these things are
Fantastic.
great ideas. I think, we knew it
Maybe
would.
now you'll,
Yeah, I'll
have the
go, now I
opportunity to
can
go
get my nails done
processed.
and have lunch.
You have
Come in
a
with
double
blue hair next
process
time.
and a cut, that's
Right.
3 hours. Come on. Look, they're all none, they're all none. I'm not crazy.
Okay, so moving forward, again, I just want to highlight that this is a pilot program. We're going to see how it works. I think it's going to expire on September 30th, 2024. And if it works out well, we will renew it and make it a permanent thing. So,
The extra fee is the pilot. You are definitely establishing this Lower Main
Okay.
zone.
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, just so it's clear. I tried to draft it that way so the clerk could reflect that in your fee schedules.
Okay, so is there a motion to establish the following on-street metered parking zone and hours of enforcement as set forth in the motion itself, whereas we're extending parking time at certain parking zones and creating another parking zone? So is there a motion as outlined in that resolution? Trustee Rosen-Asher, second. Trustee Galen, all in favor? That passes unanimously. So we'll check it out and see how that goes. Please give us your feedback on that. If you don't think it's working, or if you think it's working great, we'd appreciate to hear from people.
I also have just a quick question for Jeff. I assume that you get the reports from Park Mobile. Will we be able to tell how frequently the optional third hour is being utilized?
The information I get, I can't get that, but I believe the chief has access and maybe Margaret to get that type of information.
The question is, can we,
how can you
in
monitor?
evaluating whether that third hour is valuable to people, if it's overused, if it's underused, if we can make sure that we're looking at, a before period and an after period and seeing, whether there's, okay, great.
Okay. Action item number 2 is to consider a resolution declaring April 26th, 2024 Arbor Day in the village of Dobbs Ferry. We have a resolution for that, which gives a little background and history for that, which I'll read from the beginning. Back in 1872. So, in all seriously, trees will increase the property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, beautify our community. And whereas trees, whenever planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, the The Board of Trustees hereby declares April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the village. We will urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Is there a motion to that effect? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 3 is to authorize a street closure on June 30th, 2024. This is to, so that the newly popular soapbox derby event can be done. Now, from what I'm told, years and years ago, Dobbs-Ferry had a very robust soapbox derby event. We brought it back last year for our for our 150th anniversary.
It's been
I
3 years.
really thought
Vinny.
I could say that this time. And I know. And it worked out really well. It was really popular. So we're going to do it again this year. So that'll be on June 30th between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Is there a motion to authorize the street closure? Trustee Rosenasher, second. Trustee Galen, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 4 is to consider a resolution declaring a 2017 Ford Escape as surplus. We've been advised by by the building department that the 2017 Ford Escape, which is 7 years old, has been recently replaced by a 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee Hybrid. And as a result, the Ford Escape is no longer needed. We're going to declare that as surplus so it can be sold. So is there a motion to declare it as surplus? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 5 is to consider a resolution declaring a 1999 Seagrave pumper fire engine as surplus. We have a memo from the fire department dated March 26, 2024, explaining that the Board of Trustees authorized purchase of a new pumper to replace this 1999 Seagrave, and the Seagrave is no longer needed. And I shouldn't say no longer. It'll be delivered sometime in May or June, the new truck, right? Yeah. Okay. So as a result of that, we're going to declare it as surplus and they will sell it. So is there a motion to declare the 1999 Seagrave pumper as surplus equipment? Trustee Rosenasher, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 6 is to consider a resolution to authorize amending Resolution 3-2022 to the increase in and budget transfer for a Pierce Enforcer pumper fire engine purchase. We have a memo dated April 2nd, 2024, from the fire department noting that the final price change is, I guess, the value of the truck, I know what it was. It was all steel, too heavy, shifted to aluminum, it's gotta be lighter, it's more expensive. Is that it?
Yeah, so essentially when you get the truck, they give you that truck and then you gotta do the modifications to make it fit your needs in your firehouse. So on the return with that, I'm getting approximately $65,000 on the 99 Seagrave that we're declaring surplus. So that should eat up some of that cost on the back end.
Okay, and that's because we're shifting it to aluminum as opposed to,
Correct.
okay, all right.
There's modifications, shifting it to aluminum and like we had to move the ladder racks, it's too high to come in and the weight, so.
Okay.
That's for this.
That's for the, yeah, that's for this firehouse.
Now, would something like this be able to, with the fire that we had, I think we had a problem getting the truck closer, was because it was too big, or?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, in those circumstances, there's nothing you could really do with that, right? Because your access is your access. So no matter what truck we get, you're still gonna be in the same boat.
Okay, all right. So is there a motion to authorize amending of the resolution to reflect the cost increase and a budget transfer? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 7 is to declare certain amounts as uncollectible based on an in-rem foreclosure by the town of Greenberg on the property of 145 Wallgrove. Can you explain this, Jeff?
Sure. The town of Greenberg foreclosed on a property. They sold it. It didn't return enough proceeds to cover the total back taxes due. And there's no way to recover that, and so I need to ask to write the difference off.
Does the town precede us as a creditor?
So the town, there's an agreement between the town and the villages where the town will do the in rem foreclosure, and then there's an agreement on the distribution of how much, percentage wise.
So we receive some, but we're not, but there's an uncollectible amount.
Correct.
The amounts are very small, right?
Yeah, these are both very.
Yeah, they're both small. It's just to clear up the books, to not be carrying this as an open
I
item.
think on the first one, it's $687.94, so. Okay. Is there a resolution to declare certain amounts as uncollectible based on in rem foreclosure by the town of Greenberg? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Galen, all in favor? That passes unanimously. That was related to 145 Wall Grove. The next item, which is action item number 8, involves the property at 2 Hillside Avenue. So, Jeff, it's the same situation?
Same situation.
A lot less money.
Yes, we received $24.41.
We did.
So, is there a motion to declare this amount as uncollectible based on an in rem foreclosure by the town of Greenberg? Trustee Taylor, second trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 9 is to consider a budget transfer as recommended by the superintendent of recreation. Jeff, can you just explain this?
So the board recently approved the band for the Memorial Day Parade. There isn't enough money in the celebrations line. It's about $551 short, and we need to approve a transfer to that, to the celebrations line.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the budget transfer as recommended by the superintendent of recreation? Trustee Sullivan, second trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 10 is to consider a resolution to adopt the 2024 to 2025 village budget and tax rate. So at the outset, I just want to advise people that, once again, everyone should be aware that only 20% of the taxes you pay go to the village, 70% go to the school, some of it, rest of that goes to the county, some of the rest of it goes to the town. With that 20%, we have to keep up municipal services, and fortunately, this year, we had a pretty large increase in the medical contributions and the retirement contributions. Having said all that, the tax rate has actually decreased from last year. It's going to go down 1.12%. We're also within the state mandated tax cap, which was 2%. Tax levy will be 3.77%. So again, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but if your house is worth $750,000, this increase is approximately $196, I believe.
Correct.
Correct?
Yep.
The village continues to be in a strong fiscal position. When you look at the rest of the river towns, I think only one other river town has a lower tax levy than we do. And I know that Jeff, the department heads, Rob, the village administrator, worked very hard in bringing this budget in. It's a very fiscally responsible budget, and we appreciate all the work that they've done for it. And we've had a public hearing, we've had meetings on it, we've had workshops on it, and I believe this is the best budget we can bring in, faced with the fiscal responsibility that we're charged with. So, I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything before we vote on it. If not, we can just go forward and vote. Okay? So is there a motion to adopt the 2024-2025 village budget and tax rate? Trustee Taylor, second trustee Galen, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 11 is to consider a resolution authorizing the tax levy and warrant for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. This is, we are then giving you authority to collect this tax. Is that correct,
That's correct.
Okay. So is there a motion to authorize the tax levy and warrants for fiscal year 2024 through 2025? Trustee Rosen Asher, second trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 12 was to consider a resolution approving the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. That was sent to us in a separate email, and I want to apologize to Liz, because I missed that. So I do have it, and I did review it. So is there a motion to approve the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I didn't see his hand until the last minute.
That was a look.
Okay. Trustee liaison reports and announcements. Trustee Galen.
Downtown Committee had a great meeting with Kendra last week. We are working on some exciting event ideas for the coming summer season.
Okay. Trustee Rosenberg.
Nothing to report from the past, just upcoming, the Affordable Housing Task Force will be meeting as a part of the subcommittee that has been defined to go through the RFQs that we received on April 30th. So we will have some more knowledge about what those will contain and potentially some recommendations after that date.
Okay. Trustee Sullivan. Nothing. Trustee Taylor.
Two things quickly. One is that Sustainable Dobbs is in the process of evaluating projects in conjunction with the village that could be used for some grant money that's being received. So we can look forward to some environmental projects there. The library continues to do very creative and interesting programs to encourage people to get involved.
Trustee Patino.
I have some coordinating to do with the CAB and the planning board on the first item on our workshop. So I will try to wrangle those people together and get back to you.
Okay. Trustee Rosen Asher.
Well, you gave my big report for the Human Rights and Diversity Committee, so I just want to also personally thank Cynthia for everything that she did. I had the pleasure of also being one of the original members of the Human Rights and Diversity Committee, and she has an incredible passion for the work and dedication and great organization skills and public speaking skills, and she was really an invaluable part of getting that committee off the ground. Looking forward to working with Donnie, and I know that there's more great things ahead, and I think that's about it.
Okay. I just want to talk about the eclipse yesterday. The library had a great event. I went to the library. It was very well attended, and I think people enjoyed it there. And then I went to Waterfront Park, which was very crowded, and I also think people had a good time at that event. Liz, do you want to talk about the event that you attended yesterday?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to mention a brief comment about our zoning board chairman, Peter Hoffman. Peter, he was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals in 1984, and in 2009, he was appointed as the chair and continues to serve as chair to date. Mr. Hoffman has consistently exceeded expectations in his role on the Zoning Board of Appeals, demonstrating exceptional competence, professionalism, and a strong sense of responsibility. This year, 2024, will be Mr. Hoffman's 40th year of service on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Yesterday, Mr. Hoffman, his wife Penny, and I attended the annual conference of the New York Planning Federation. Mr. Hoffman was the recipient of the Federation's prestigious 2024 David Alley Award, which is presented to an outstanding Zoning Board of Appeals chair in New York State. So we certainly want to congratulate Mr. Hoffman on this achievement, and many thanks to him for his dedicated service to the village.
Yes, I want to echo that. I'm sure everyone on the board here would want to echo that. He was here earlier. I didn't get an opportunity to thank him in person, congratulate him in person, but we do appreciate everything that he's done for us. Liz, thank you for taking the time out to go up there and represent the village's interests.
Welcome.
Anybody want to add anything else? Yes,
I have an item,
sure.
believe it or
You're
not.
not a board member, but we'll let you speak.
I
Maybe you
have-
should use speak courtesy of the floor.
Okay. I have an item in my local paper at home, and I live in Newcastle, the Examiner. There's an article about Mount Kisco narrowing down the list of projects for use of the DIG funding, the grant. They were one of the communities, along with Dobbs Ferry, that was awarded the DIG grant opportunity. And I note in the article that they're looking at wayfinding and parking maps and updating asking the consultants to update their website and to provide accessibility to visitors with more wayfinding and parking direction and focus, which is the same exact topics that you all are talking about. So it's just a proof again that the same problems are trying to be addressed in many communities across this region. So they're narrowing it down to wayfinding and parking signage and updating website with the maps, and that's the same thing that you're considering as well.
Right, so we met with the DIG consultants last week, and it seems, and Shari can certainly expand upon this, that all of the communities have a real interest in upgrading their wayfinding and the signage. So one of the questions will be, will the county be able to buy the signs, I don't guess at a discount, or make it
No,
streamline it?
the wayfinding was in all 5 communities who received the grant. There were similarities. Everybody had issues with wayfinding and signage, every single community. So it is something, there will be a meeting with the powers that be at the county to see if there's ways that the county could help facilitate the process so that each community does not have to go through that themselves, no promises. But the exploration that the consultants did and all the communities has unearthed some very interesting findings, and the similarities between the communities were overwhelming despite the differences in the communities. And then there were some things that were, very specific, but we're at the process now where every community is going to have to make their decisions about what to focus on and what they are going to be requesting the money to be used for from the county. And the consultants are available to all communities until the end of July. And the contract with them runs out. So any questions, comments, or concerns, call them every day if you need to.
Right, and like I said, we met with them last week, and they were very helpful, and we'll see what happens with the getting signage, and we'll go from there.
And you're glad I brought it up, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And also, I just want to point out, this is the local paper, which we miss dearly here in Dobbs Ferry, our local paper. And I came across a Insta post about a not-for-profit that's stepped up with some communities upstate to take over the press and the media for opportunities such as what we're facing. And I sent that to Christine, and she's going to look into how we can do something similar here so you can bring your local paper back.
Okay.
Always on the lookout.
Anything further? By the way, I'll forget it. Is there a motion to close the, trustee Galen, second, trustee Rosen?